Okay, here's the rewritten text. It started like any normal day at court. But things went south fast for Kody Brown for years. He'd shown off this image of being the perfect dad, the loving husband, the wise leader of the Brown family, all for the cameras and his fans. Suddenly, it all blew up when sealed files were opened in court, revealing secrets he wanted buried forever for nearly 2 decades. People saw Kody as the rock holding the Brown family together. On Sister Wives, viewers watched him deal with the ups and downs of polygamy. Trying to be fair but firm, he seemed patient, always putting his wives and kids first. But behind the scenes, a different story was brewing, one that trashed how everyone saw him. The courtroom was super tense, lawyers messed with papers, and cameras zoomed in on everyone's reactions. The family sat there, stunned. No one thought these files would cause so much trouble. When the first pages were read out loud, you could hear a pin drop. The files were more than just legal stuff. They showed hidden choices, actions, and behaviors from years ago. The files had letters, bank statements, and notes that painted a different of Kody, totally opposite of the dad image he wanted to show. Some papers showed money decisions that were really shady. Others suggested he was misusing family funds or even manipulating people for his own gain. Each page seemed to knock down the reputation he'd spent years building. People in the courtroom said Kody's face gave it all away. He tried to stay calm, but you could see the stress. His lips tightened, he frowned, he fidgeted in his seat. Everyone felt the pressure, not just him. For the Brown family, this wasn't just a court thing. It was all their private stuff being aired out in public, stuff they wanted to keep secret. Fans watching the episode were in for a surprise. Clips showed Kody listening closely as lawyers read from the files. Each thing they said seemed to contradict what he'd been saying on TV for years. People started questioning his honesty and whether he was ever really the dad they thought he was. Social media went wild, with people arguing about it. Some defended him, saying reality TV twists things, while others were mad, saying the evidence showed something way worse than just bad management. The worst part wasn't just the money stuff. Some papers suggested Kody might have been playing games with his family to stay in charge or look good. Decisions that seemed thoughtful on camera now seemed planned, making people wonder what he was really thinking. Each new piece of proof added another layer to the story, showing it wasn't just a simple case. It was a fight over the legacy of one of TV's most famous families. Family members and advisors were called to speak, which made it even more emotional. Some were careful, trying to stay loyal while talking about things that clearly bothered them. Others were blunt, talking about frustrations and disappointments they'd kept inside. The courtroom turned into a drama club. Anger, sadness, confusion, and betrayal all mixed together as the story came out. For fans, this was big. The files not only made people question Kody's actions as a leader, but also showed how fragile trust, honesty, and power were within the Brown family. Choices that seemed okay or even needed now seemed like they might have broken trust. People had big questions about Kody's honesty and what he was really after. Could a guy so important to his family have been acting in ways that helped him more than the people he said he loved? The money papers were even more shocking. Deals that were hidden from the public, and maybe even from some of his family, showed a level of control and secrecy no one knew about. While Kody was always shown as the provider, the files hinted at something much more complicated than just managing money for the house and family. They suggested a system of decisions and actions that might have been made to confuse people, raising worries about whether he was being honest. As the files were shown, you could feel the emotions. Wives looked at each other nervously, some kids looked down at the floor, and fans whispered anxiously. It was hard for many to see the man they thought was a good dad doing the things he was accused of. Kody's image, once seen as a great example of leadership and heart, was now being attacked. News outlets jumped on the story. Headlines screamed, "Kody Brown's legacy at risk." Files show secrets, and from dad to fraud. The drama wasn't just in the courtroom, it exploded on social media, where people argued and dissected every new thing that came out. Every post and comment seemed to make things worse, creating a viral moment that could change how people saw Kody Brown forever. The files also forced fans and family to face that the Kody they saw on TV might not have been the real deal. Reality TV often makes things look different than they are, but the courtroom proof suggested the was much more twisted and way more disturbing than anyone thought. By the end of the first day of the drama, one thing was clear: Kody Brown's life, his legacy, and the Brown family's image were in trouble. The files showed problems that couldn't be ignored anymore, raising questions about trust, honesty, and what it really costs to keep up a public image. For fans, the drama was exciting, sad, and scary all at once. In the middle of all this, Kody sat in the courtroom, listening to the details, answering questions, and trying to keep it together, but even though he looked calm, it was clear that his reputation as a good dad and leader had taken a hit and things were unsure going forward. Private family stuff was now public record, open for everyone to see and talk about. This first day in court set the scene for a big drama to come. It reminded people that even those who seem untouchable, even those who live in the public eye, can be exposed. Kody Brown's story had gone from being about fatherhood and leadership to being about controversy, and maybe betrayal, a story that would keep viewers glued to their screens, start arguments, and make everyone ask, how did this happen? By the time the day ended, you could hear people whispering in disbelief. The files had done more than just show questionable actions. They had started to tear down the image of a man who, for years, had been a symbol of family togetherness and guidance. For Kody, the files were more than just evidence, they were a mirror showing a he couldn't control, a legacy about to fall apart. And so, the stage was set. Kody Brown's world, once carefully managed and shown off, was now facing a public judgment that would challenge everything people thought they knew. The shocking reveal of the files marked the start of a dramatic, emotional, and unforgettable part of the story of one of TV's most famous families, a part that fans around the world would watch eagerly. The courtroom was buzzing with tension. Everyone watched Kody Brown, who people thought was the calm leader of the Brown family, but that image was in trouble today. The files that were opened were like a storm about to hit. From the start, you could tell this wasn't a normal court thing. Lawyers were quick, looking through papers, ready to show proof that would go against everything Kody had showed to the public. People who were there said it felt like a mix of worry and disbelief. Every move, look, and whisper felt important. Kody walked in looking calm, but if you looked close, you could see he was stressed. His jaw was tight, his eyes darted around, and his hands fidgeted. He looked like he was in control, but really, he was feeling the stress of defending his reputation and his past. The session started with the first set of proof. The lawyers showed the files. They had emails, money statements, and personal notes. Each thing was shown as proof of bad behavior that hurt the Brown family and questioned Kody's honesty. The money documents were maybe the most surprising. They showed deals that no one knew about, which brought up some ethics questions. Some investments, property deals, and money decisions suggested that choices were made in secret. It seemed like Kody used his power as the leader to control what happened with the money and in the family, keeping some members in the dark while acting like everything was fine to everyone else. As the lawyers read parts of emails and letters, it was clear that things were more complicated than bad management. One email looked like it was a plan to protect Kody's image by hiding things from his wives. Another paper said that family members were kept out of money decisions. People murmured as these things were shown. It seemed like each thing took away another layer of the man that viewers thought they knew. Family members were there, looking shocked or annoyed. Some wives looked at each other, not knowing how to act in front of cameras. The kids sat quietly, looking confused and worried. Each thing that was revealed added to the emotion of the scene, turning a legal thing into a personal fight. Kody's lawyers quickly tried to lessen the hit from the files. They said that many of the papers were being misunderstood or taken the wrong way. They said Kody always made choices that were best for the family. But to the people watching, the amount of proof made it hard to ignore what it meant. Each new file seemed to say that Kody's actions weren't always what they seemed to be. The media made the drama bigger. News showed live updates, catching the families' and lawyers' reactions. Social media blew up with talks, guesses, and arguments. Fans looked at every sentence, thinking about Kody's actions, plans, and what could happen. Posts and videos covered platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, turning the court thing into something everyone was watching. The emotions in the room got stronger as people told their stories. Advisors, former friends, and even family members gave stories that added to the files. Some remembered times of bad choices, while others talked about times of manipulation or secrets. Each story, written down by the court, was more complicated than what people had seen on TV. At one point, the main lawyer for the other side stopped, letting a really bad piece of proof sink in. It was a money record that went against what Kody had said about family investments. It showed a lot of secrets and control that people didn't like. The courtroom was silent, the tension thick as everyone took in what it meant. Even Kody's supporters looked uneasy. The session was interesting because the papers changed the story that people had been following for years on Sister Wives. Choices that seemed caring now looked like plans to control things and get a good image instead of being honest. Fans were questioning everything from family talks to how Kody led. Could the man who seemed so wise on TV have been planning things to help him, even if it hurt others? As they showed more proof, small reactions from the Brown family were made. bigger, wives moved in their seats, kids whispered, and supporters tried to stay calm. The emotional stress was made worse because it was being shown on TV, changing how people saw the family. Every sigh, look, and tear was watched by fans and the media. Kody looked calm, but people said he knew what was happening. His lawyers stepped in when needed, giving explanations, but the drama had a life of its own. The files were more than legal proof. They were signs of a man's reputation being questioned, piece by piece. Maybe the most dramatic part was when the court read personal notes that suggested he was manipulative. These notes, written or said by Kody, seemed to put his image before his family's needs. The difference between the loving father on TV and the man in these papers was big, shocking the courtroom and the audience. The reactions outside the courtroom were fast and strong. Fans argued online, was Kody manipulative? Did he use his power wrong? Could these actions be okay because he was managing a polygamous family? The talk went past the Brown family, talking about trust, responsibility, and being a leader and famous families. By the end, it was clear that the files had changed the story. What started as a legal case had turned into a drama. Kody Brown, who was seen as the leader of his family, was now being watched on all sides, legally, emotionally, and publicly. The session ended in silence. Lawyers gathered their papers, family members left quietly, and the public was left thinking about what they had heard. The drama wasn't over. The files had opened a can of worms that would change how people saw Kody Brown and the Brown family. For a long time. In reality TV, the court drama had mixed entertainment with real life. Fans realized they weren't just watching a show. It was a personal fall of a man who was seen as a good father and leader. Each piece of proof and story was a reminder that reality TV can't hide the truth forever. As viewers waited for the next session, they wondered, how would Kody react to the pressure? Would the family stand by him, or would their relationships break? And most importantly, could Kody save his reputation, or was this the end for one of reality TV's biggest stars? This session didn't just entertain, it shocked and made people talk. It showed how easily public opinion can change and how much private actions matter. Kody Brown was being watched closely. The stuff that came out in court didn't just mess with Kody Brown's reputation, it hit the Brown family hard. For ages, viewers watched Kody try to handle his big family with what seemed like fairness, but now, these open files showed problems nobody could miss. This drama wasn't just on paper. It was about real feelings, messed up relationships, and deep family feuds. During the court thing, the family really struggled to keep it together. The wives sat nearby, giving each other worried looks. Each new thing from the files seemed worse than before. Some wives had really trusted Kody, believing he made the best decisions for everyone on money, feelings, and relationships. Now, questions they had brushed off were back, needing answers. Was Kody the guy they thought he was, or had he been sneaky behind their backs? The kids were in a mess of confusion too. Some of the older kids, who saw Kody as their leader, looked totally shaken. Fans online noticed that even in pictures from court, they looked disbelieving, hurt, and unsure. Just imagine seeing your dad as solid and honest, and then finding out stuff that makes you doubt everything he's ever done. For them, court wasn't just legal, it was a wake-up call. People in the family started whispering. Some felt mad that money, property, and family choices had been secret for so long. Others felt hurt, like Kody broke their trust. Even people who had defended him before started wondering what they were really believing inside the courtroom. Things got tense as personal problems came out in public. Court people said there were some big arguments. Family members who had been quiet for years suddenly spoke up. There were loud talks behind closed doors, though the media only saw bits and pieces. The emotional mess wasn't just about the law, it was about trust, loyalty, and the basic bonds of a family that had been on TV for almost 20 years. For the wives, each new thing was a test of their loyalty and patience. Some felt like their role in the family wasn't respected in Kody's decisions. Others worried about what everyone would think, knowing millions were watching, dealing with their hurt feelings. And the public eye made things super tough. The stress spread to other family members too. In-laws and friends who had supported Kody had to face stuff that changed how they saw him. Some tried to stay neutral while others said they were disappointed and worried. The court became a place for both legal stuff and a really personal drama that touched everyone in the Brown family. Social media made everything worse fast. Fans who had watched the Browns for years picked apart every reaction. Some felt bad for the wives and kids, thinking Kody was handling things badly. Others defended him, saying family stuff is complex and there's always more to the story. The talk blew up on forums, YouTube, and TikTok, turning a private fight into a public show. The strain on the family was clear when they talked about money, The open files had proof of deals some family members didn't even know about. People wondered if Kody cared more about himself than them, or if he thought he was doing the right thing for everyone. This made things tense and forced everyone to rethink their relationship with him. Some people were really upset right away. People at court said there were tears in the courtroom and later in private meetings. Some wives said they hated having to defend Kody while feeling betrayed. The kids, especially the older ones, felt confused, angry, and sad. It wasn't just about the law. It was about losing trust in the one they had always believed in. Being in the public eye just made the stress worse. Fans, news, and social media people looked closely at everything they did. Every look, sigh, or whisper was watched and judged. Suddenly, private feelings became a topic for everyone to discuss. Knowing millions were watching and judging added to the pressure even as the court thing went on. The family had to deal with their personal relationships. Talks that were once private were now out in the open. Arguments about loyalty, honesty, and the family's future weren't secret anymore, they were big news. The emotional fallout wasn't just a side thing, it was the main drama. People said that. Some family members were rethinking past experiences with Kody. Choices that once seemed good now looked different because of the court files. Trust wasn't automatic anymore, it was visible in court, private talks, texts, and online posts. Every interaction felt heavy with doubt, disappointment, and fight for Kody. Seeing all this was definitely hard. He had spent years being the leader of his family, and now every relationship was doubted. People say he tried to stay calm, but he was under a lot of pressure. The emotions of his wives, kids, and other family members always reminded him what was at risk, not just legally, but personally. One big thing this showed was how easily family stuff can fall apart when you're famous. The Browns had been public for years, but even fame couldn't protect them when secrets came out. Trust and loyalty were suddenly being tested in a big way. Viewers could see the effects. The wives' faces, the kids' reactions, and how they talked to each other showed confusion, hurt, and rethinking. Comments filled social media, with people supporting the family's strength, while others wondered if there would be long-term damage. It showed people that reality TV families are still real and that relationships are never simple. Even with all the chaos, some family members tried to stay strong together. They knew things were serious but still said family loyalty was important. These times showed how tough their situation was, trying to balance love and trust, while dealing with real feelings of being let down. As the court thing ended, the emotional stakes were still high. The files had not only showed possible legal problems but had also caused a big emotional mess that could change the Brown family forever. Fans and the media wondered how this family, that seemed so united, would handle all the stress. For viewers, this was both gripping and sad. It proved that choices, especially when public, affect more than just the law. They touch the most personal parts of family life, trust and love. The fallout showed that fame can't protect anyone from the results of their actions. In the end, the court and all the emotions changed the Brown family for good. Kody's role as the leader was being doubted both in court and in his own family. The wives, kids, and other family had to face tough questions about loyalty and honesty. The emotional mess won't end with court. The files have set off a chain reaction that will keep affecting relationships for months. For viewers, it's a reminder that behind every public person is a web of emotions and consequences, and that even the most stable family can be broken by the truth. This part of the drama grabbed attention, started talks, and set the stage for the next part of the Brown family story. The mess was emotional and public. Kody and his family can't go back. The court stuff has changed their relationships forever, and this will hurt for years. Okay, here's a rewrite of that text, aiming for a more human and less AI-ish feel. The courtroom was already a pressure cooker, with family members reeling from the released files, but nobody, not Kody, the Browns, or viewers, could have guessed what would come next. The actual evidence dropped hard. This wasn't just claims anymore, it was documented stuff showing actions, decisions, and behavior that really messed with what everyone thought they knew about Kody Brown. The files were stuffed with stuff, money stuff, personal notes, emails, you name it, some going back years. The lawyers went through it bit by bit, pointing out patterns that made things way more complicated and controversial than anyone figured. Little things that seemed like slip-ups before now looked like a planned-out thing with big results. The money stuff was maybe the most shocking. There were records of payments and such that some family members said they knew nothing about. Property stuff, money coming in and out, all tracked, showing that Kody had a crazy amount of control over the family's money. Some of this might have been normal family stuff, but the files hinted at secrets and messing around that was more than just managing things. The other side's lawyers said it wasn't just mistakes, it was on purpose to help Kody or protect his image while the family stayed in the dark. One of the worst things was a bunch of emails between Kody and money people at first glance. They seemed normal, talking about where to put the money, making the funds and spending for home. But when you put them with the other stuff, it was clear Kody made decisions that cut his wives out, sometimes completely, from important money talks. The files hinted that he kept control of the family's money to stay in charge, often without telling everyone or getting their okay, but it wasn't just cash. Personal notes showed stuff that some called manipulative. Some entries hinted that Kody cared more about how things looked than how his family was actually doing. Choices that seemed nice on TV now looked planned to keep up his image as a great dad and husband. People watching were floored. The guy they thought was a steady and caring head of the family was getting checked out for actions that seemed selfish and controlling. Some of the hardest stuff to swallow was about family stuff. Some papers talked about trying to get his wives and kids to act a certain way, sometimes a little, sometimes much more. Notes hinted at ways to stay in charge, make sure people did what he wanted, or deal with fights in a way that helped Kody's image instead of fixing the problems. This hit hard with people in the courtroom and with fans, who blew up social media with their shock and outrage. People in the courtroom noticed the emotional impact. As the lawyers went through the stuff, the wives looked really upset, some covering their faces, others looking worried. The kids were quieter but just as affected. There was whispering, fidgeting, and sad eyes. The evidence wasn't just changing the legal story. It was forcing the family to face some hard truths about their relationships, trust, and loyalty. As things went on, more documents came to light, each making it more complex. Some showed Kody saying different things at different times, making you wonder if he was being honest. Others hinted that some things he did might have been to protect his image, even if it meant not being real with his family. The story that was coming out was worrying. A guy who was praised for being a leader now seemed to have done things that could be seen as selfish, secretive, or manipulative. The media and fans were all over it. Clips from the courtroom, screenshots of documents, and breakdowns of the emails were everywhere online. Social media went nuts with debates, with people picking apart every word and figuring out what Kody was really like. Some defended him, saying that running a family with many wives is super complicated, and you have to look at the whole picture. Others called him out, saying that the files showed he was hiding stuff and being controlling. The evidence started a public talk about what's right and wrong, trust, and responsibility in famous families. The biggest shock, according to people in the court, was some notes that seemed to go against what Kody had said before about family, money, and planning. The lawyers pointed out that what Kody had told his wives wasn't jiving with what the documents showed. The differences suggested he wasn't being straight, whether he meant to or not, and it shocked everyone. People started wondering if Kody had done the right thing. Witnesses who came to court added more to the story. Some backed up the claims of secrets and messing around, while others said Kody meant well, but his actions might questionable. These different views made the courtroom tense, with strong feelings all around. It became clear that the unsealed files had legal importance, and also the power to change family relationships for good for the Brown kids. The evidence was really hard. Choices they thought were fair or good for them were now being questioned. How could they make sense of their dad's public image and the reality that was coming out in the files? This emotional mess created issues not just in the courtroom but also during talks after. Some family members felt betrayed, while others couldn't quite understand why Kody did what he did. Fans watching were hooked by how complicated it was. It wasn't simple, it was confusing, with many perspectives, and sometimes it didn't add up. That complexity fueled online talks. Clips from the courtroom went crazy viral, with fans breaking down Kody's behavior, the family's reactions, and the meaning of each document. The files had become more than just legal stuff, it was a public obsession. Click to change sentence. It really hit Kody in the head too. While he looked calm in court, sources say that the truth was that he was affected strongly. He had built a what people thought of him over many years. Now, that was being checked up with each legal paper, affecting what people thought of him. The courtroom had become not just a place for legal moving, but a location to break down a public person's picture. One really standout moment passed by when some personal notes were read aloud. Everyone was shocked, while family members visibly worried to not show how they were suffering. These notes gave the impression that Kody was a manager of himself and not the family he was with. For TV viewers, it was a moment they wouldn't forget as they realized the truth about him. By the end of the session, it was obvious the evidence had changed things in a very big way. Kody Brown wasn't just someone under a microscope, he was a huge object of a legal, emotional, and public show. The files had revealed patterns, behaviors, and decisions that made people rethink what they know about Kody for the Brown family. The evidence was hard, it cleared up some things but exposed mistakes, what might be hidden, and issues that had been undercover. Fans had had thoughts changed permanently. In the days after the meeting, sources on the media and viewers kept thinking on the proof presented. Information about each and every file were all around the world, and viewers wondered what would happen next. This situation with the Brown family showed this. Actual stuff, reports, and habits from the files shows a totally new world that was originally assumed. Kody Brown's problem had emotional and cultural issues. The problems from the information shown would be known forever. Kody's history had shaken. As the session ended, people were very shocked. The files, which had been hidden, did not only present legal and real-life problems of the family, they also show what Kody Brown and the Brown family are truly. I aimed to cut out the AI fluff and just tell the story in a straightforward, human way. How is this version? When the court thing ended, it was super clear. Kody Brown's life, what people thought of him, and what he'd spent years working on were all in danger. Those files that were opened up messed with the perfect picture of him as this great dad that tons of people admired. The court wasn't just looking at the law. It was like a stage where everyone was questioning who Kody really was, both in public and in private. Right after, it was a mess. Family members left looking bummed, confused, annoyed, and let down. Some of the wives were whispering to each other, like they couldn't believe it, while others just seemed blank, trying to take it all in. The kids who were old enough to get it were struggling with how different their dad was from what the files said. All this messed with everyone's heads as much as the legal stuff did, and it hit the family hard. For Kody, it was a huge problem. He'd spent years being the main guy in the Brown family, making decisions to keep everyone safe, or at least that's how it looked. Now, every little thing he did or said was being watched like crazy. Not just by the court, but by everyone online and on TV. It was a lot of stress. And people close to the family said that even Kody, who usually seemed calm, was having a tough time with it all behind closed doors. The stuff from court also had fans freaking out and wanting to know everything. Social media blew up with people arguing, trying to figure things out, and making guesses. Clips of Kody's reactions, how the family was acting, and screenshots of the files were all over the place. Fans were digging into every detail. Was Kody being sneaky? Did he screw over his family? Could he still be popular after all this? Everyone had questions, and it wasn't just on the news. It was all over the internet. Kody's lawyers were rushing to try and control the story. They said things needed context, that not every paper told the whole story, and that choices were made in the crazy situation of having a big polygamous family. Except, people were starting to see things differently. Even folks who used to support Kody were saying that the files made them wonder about if he was being open and honest. The court stuff had started a big change, and there was no going back. Things were already tense, and this made them worse. The wives and kids had to deal with their own stuff while also dealing with the court and everyone watching them. Private talks became awkward as they tried to figure out who to trust, who was responsible, and who was on whose side. The way they usually talked to each other was messed up, and even small fights seemed huge because everyone was paying attention. The Brown family, who used to seem like one big happy family, was now having to really think about what was going on and what to do. The files didn't just show some questionable stuff. They started a big talk about what's right and wrong, who's in charge, and how you should act. People were wondering if Kody should even be the head of the family anymore, not just legally but also morally. Viewers and critics were asking if someone who cared more about what people thought than being honest could really lead a family. This wasn't just about court anymore. People were talking about being responsible in families, how people act in public, and if reality TV is doing the right thing. One thing that really stood out was how everyone had to face some hard truths. Choices that they thought were keeping everyone safe or were needed were now being looked at in a different light. Things they did to keep order or stop fights were now being seen as trying to control people, or just thinking about themselves. The files broke the spell, forcing everyone to deal with things they'd been hiding for a long time. For the public, this showed that reality TV people are still just people. The Brown family had been on TV for almost 20 years, and viewers felt like they knew them. The court stuff reminded everyone that even on TV, families have the same problems, arguments, and feelings that everyone else does. Trust can be broken, people's loyalty can be tested, and even the closest families can have problems when secrets come out. The news made everything even more intense. News places were writing long stories about the files, comparing them to what Kody had said over the years. People online were making videos, pointing out when he was saying one thing but doing another. The story that came out was that Kody Brown, who used to be seen as a family man, was now losing people's trust both at home and online. Regardless of the mess, some family members supposedly stuck by him. They talked about how long he'd been dedicated, how he wanted to keep the family safe, and how difficult it was to handle a family with multiple wives and kids. These loyal moments stood out against all the doubt, making things even more complicated. And emotional supporters, haters, and everyone else were wondering how a family leader could balance leading, protecting, and trying to control things. Kody needed to make some big choices after all this. Could he fix what was broken in his family? Could he get back the trust of his wives and kids who felt cheated or lied to? Could he fix his public image, which was now messed up because of the files? These weren't just ideas, they were real, pressing issues, and he couldn't ignore them. Every move he made would have results, both legally and emotionally, and the world was watching. The files also started bigger talks in society. Fans, reporters, and commentators were arguing about if polygamy is okay, how much responsibility family leaders have, and how what you do in private affects what people think of you. Kody Brown's situation became a lesson in being responsible, showing how your choices can affect your family, what people think of you, and big conversations in society. The court stuff went beyond TV. It was now about big questions about trust and being real. As the days following the court session passed, the emotions and legal problems grew. The Brown family supposedly held private meetings, trying to handle both the legal stuff and the emotional fallout. Talks that used to be simple were now strained, because people had mixed feelings of loyalty, hurt, and doubt. Some relationships were almost breaking, while others were being tested in ways that would leave scars for viewers. This drama showed how wild family life can be when everyone's watching. Kody Brown, who had been seen as a rock, was now facing problems that he couldn't just fix by looking good in public. The files showed the parts of the Brown family that were hidden, making them seem real, complicated, and very human. In many ways, the court drama was a turning point. The idea of Kody Brown as the strong leader had been messed up, replaced by a more honest story of a guy dealing with mistakes, being watched, and trying to win back trust. What he'd built over years was no longer a sure thing. Every choice, every talk, and every time he spoke in public now came with a lot of pressure. The emotions, legal problems, and attention from the public all came together to be a big wake-up call. For Kody, it was about matching who he was to others with who the files said he was. For the family, it was about being loyal, forgiving, and surviving when everyone was watching. And for viewers, it was a super rare look at how easy it is to lose trust, how hard it is to lead, and what happens when things are brought out in the open. By the end, one thing was for sure, the Brown family's story had changed forever. Kody Brown, the guy who used to be the perfect example of guidance and caring for his family, was now in a tough spot. What people thought of him was in danger, and the results of the court stuff would be felt for years, not just in his relationships, but also in what people